Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Hugh Macdonald are here with me. We're delighted to have your company. Thank you very much for your support as we continue to talk football all the way through the World Cup and, of course, address many of the domestic issues. You might want to talk about them as well as the World Cup. We've got St Johnstone chairman set to step down. The clubs are continuing to monitor Josip Juranovic, the Celtic fullback. Rangers not interested in Ryan Porteous. Where did that story come from? How did it even gather pace? Raheem Sterling, thankfully, is in the right frame of mind to rejoin the England squad tomorrow, just in time for that huge match against France. We'll be talking about that, as well as one punter who is obviously biting his nails because if France win the World Cup, he could actually net himself over $500,000. We'll talk about that a little later on in the programme. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. You can join the football family. It is, of course, uncensored, unbiased and unmatched 5 days a week. And there's so much more content on our YouTube channel. And, of course, if you download the app, you'll get all the breaking stories. We've got competitions aplenty. At the quarter-final stage now, you can join at any point on our Fandex World Cup competition.
Come and join PLZ Soccer on Fandex for our FIFA World Cup 2022 Stock Exchange game. It's absolutely free to play and you have the chance to win cash prizes. You can buy shares in your favourite team and watch their stock price increase or decrease based on their real-life World Cup performances against the expected points tally set by Fandex. You can buy and sell as many teams as you like, as often as you like, with winners being announced after every round. The PLZ Soccer family are waiting for you on Fandex. Head to plzsoccer.com and click on Fandex World Cup 2022.
Yeah, so good luck with that competition. We've got another one with our friends at Greaves and Copa a little later on in the programme, which is proving very popular as well. Hugh is here, so is Ruffy. World Cup on our mind too a little later on with those mouth-watering quarter-final ties. Here's a quiz question that we'll tap into Holland against Argentina, one of the quarter-final ties. Which year did Dennis Bergkamp score his wonder goal to knock Argentina out of the World Cup? It was an absolute cracker. I mean, I think one of the De Boer brothers, was it Frank, hit the ball almost 60 yards to his toe.
Right onto his toe. See the way he took it out of the air? It was as if it was just something soft and then bang, away with it.
Yeah, outside of the boot. What a player, eh?
I always remember a mate's brother, my best mate, David Dick, his brother, Ali Dick, a wonderful guy. He once played in a front three, Peter, that read Van Basten, Bergkamp and Dick.
There you are.
It's not bad front three.
It's not bad for a Scotsman, is it?
He got a medal, didn't he?
He got a European Cup Winners' Cup medal. He's got 3 European medals, winning medals, which is pretty darn good. He's got one with Tottenham Hotspur, UEFA Cup. He's got one with Ajax, European Cup Winners' Cup, and of course he won the Euro Championships with Scotland under 21.
Magic. Doesn't get any better than that. And again, not relatively unknown and celebrated in this country.
I know, and what a career.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've got...
Johan Cruyff signed him, Peter.
That's not not a bad judge of a good player, eh? Yeah, so listen, we're going to talk about football, individuals as well, as Hugh mentioned there about Ali Dick. And of course, some stories that have been ongoing over the last few days. Look at Ruffy tensing up here. I can see it in his body. But Partick Thistle, obviously the trust have now, they've now released a statement, and this is what it had to say. Partick Thistle Football Club can provide the following update to supporters following yesterday's director resignations. To ensure immediate stability for the club for the rest of the season, we today announced the appointment of Richard Bastel and Fergus McLennan of the PTFC Trust and Carolyn Mackey, nominated by the Jags Foundation, onto the PTFC board, joining Duncan Smiley and working with the CEO Jerry Britton. The club also welcomes today's earlier joint update by the PTFC Trust and the Jags Foundation, and they are aligned on delivering the very best fan ownership future for Partick Thistle. So we've had Ruffy's take on it. Hugh, what do you make of it?
It's a shambles, really. I think it's been it's I think there's been a lot of misapprehension and misunderstanding of what went on. I think the fact that directors had to leave is more than regrettable, because this was never a Partick Thistle board decision. This was a decision by Three Black Cats, independent company that had the shares, Colin shares, and it was their decision where the shares were going and who they were given to. As I understand it, the board had no input on that. That was a private company's decision. So for board members, and I'll say this for Ruffy and that, for board members who put in, and I know the time they put in and the effort they put in to be, to be put under siege like that, leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Obviously, being Thistle, club close to my heart over the years, I hope everyone settles down going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on from that, because we've had more than a few statements from yourself on it, Ruffy, and I'm just hoping that before the Christmas party on Saturday, that you might, put a smile on your face. There's no I'm paying for everything.
No, you actually have to watch when you put a smile on your face, because people take it the wrong way.
He's brilliant, isn't he? Well, listen, Saturday we'll go out, we'll let you forget about it.
What more can you ask for? No, I think Hugh summed it up there. The club has to move on.
Yeah.
Ian McCall and the managers have to do well for the supporters. It's a magic club, wonderful club to be at. So let's hope that we can start winning games and move up the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. St Johnstone have issued a statement. It's a day for statements, so we used to have more than a few of them. St Johnstone have issued a statement on Steve Brown standing down as St Johnstone chairman. As a lifelong St Johnstone supporter, it's been an honour to be part of this great football club. We've had some great times, and the cup successes in 2014 and 2021 will never leave me. But I feel the time is right to stand down as chairman, and I will go on May 31st of next year. This has been on my mind for some time, but when COVID-19 struck in March 2020, there was no way I could have stepped down then. I had to stay because I had a responsibility to the football club and to stand by it. Now, I look around, I see stability on and off the park. So after 18 years on the board, 11 of which have been as chairman, it is the right time. And I think Steve and his dad, Jeff, can hold their heads up high.
Very high indeed. I mean, if you actually came up for a template of what would be a successful tenure at St Johnstone, and you came up with what that family's done, you'd have laughed out of court. You'd say that, what, winning cups, winning 2 cups in a season, winning the first Scottish Cup and then adding another one in a League Cup too. Complete stability, never breaking the budget. People have always been pushing them spend a wee bit more and go a bit more, and they've said no. By and large as well, Peter, all their managerial appointments have been, I mean, not all can be successful, but they've had really good managers with long tenures. Off the top of my head, Derek McInnes, Owen Coyle, Tommy Wright, of course, Callum as Davidson's come on and done a great job. I mean, can't speak highly. Speak too highly of the Brown tenure at the club. I was really surprised when I saw how long Steve had been there as well. I wish him well, and whoever takes over has got, and the bad news, the big shoes to fill, but the good news is they're taking over a club that is secured off the park and is strong now on it.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got a good manager, and hopefully, the board, without Steve there, but the board will continue to show that ability to back their manager, because weaker boards might have sacked him when he was in a difficult period.
Yeah, but I think as you touched on, I think the stability of the family, has rubbed off on the board. I think the board are all going in the one direction, which is always good. They have a manager in there. They know, as you said there, things are going to be tight sometimes. The money might not be there, the budget to compete. But no, generally when you get a good manager in there, he can wheel and deal and bring the right player into the club, and that's what's happened at that club.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish him well when he does eventually decide to stand down. Thanks to so many of you. Paul Beattie, who's joined us, Francisco, who obviously has joined us, Tony Holton, lots of people offering, obviously, their best wishes. to Ruffy. Ray Vaughan is not. He says Ruffy keeping his heat down today, wisely so. Not at all, Ray. Ruffy will continue to offer his opinion, and I think if you look back, I think we've gone on record as saying Ruffy's contribution to Partick Thistle far outstrips some other people who obviously have been highly critical of him. I think his name will forever be etched in their history, both as a player and, as Hugh mentioned there, as a director as well. It's been such a long period of time there. You can't just discard all of that. I think has the pain just diminished a little?
A wee bit, yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think the reason that we did leave was because we thought things were going on behind the scenes, you know, with other groups. And I don't have a problem with that, you know, if that's the way they wanted the club to be run, owned and run, which it looks like now. It looks like a fan run. And it's been successful at other clubs. I just hope it's successful at my club. And I think we're all just waiting to see which way it's going to go.
Yeah. So there you are, Ray. Ruffy, never want to shirk an opinion. And as ever on this programme, if you want an opinion, you'll get it. As we say on a regular basis, absolutely free to watch. You'll get a fair bit of banter as well. And we engage with the fans on our live feed as well. And if you are on the app, you can actually send us messages too, which we really appreciate. And lots of people do that. And this one here from Kenny, and I think this is a good one. Ruffy says, Peter, I'd like to say I feel for Ruffy. Partick Thistle without Alan Ruff just isn't right. Talk about the service. Really, the younger generation of fans are spoiled like children. Ruffy always played well at Pittodrie, and if ever the big guy's in Los Angeles, I'll buy him a chili cheese dog from Pink's. And that's Stan Free Kenny, who's a big Aberdeen fan who watches the programme regularly. So thank you, Kenny, for those kind words on it. Nice to see somebody offering the support, as many have on this. It's a listen, that's what football's like. You know, sometimes it's passionate. Some people have one point of view, some people have the other. Hopefully we've offered the balance on that situation. A couple of things we want to talk about before we get to the World Cup and the meat and bones of that, but in the World Cup, players are obviously looking and saying, well, if I've had a few good games, I might get myself a lucrative move. Josip Juranovic is certainly attracting more than a fair bit of attention.
Yeah, I think that was anticipated too. I mean, there was a bit of attention before a bit of attention in the last transfer window and in the months after that. I think that was the source of Ange Postecoglou's comments at the AGM that, you know, that players would leave. And it's certainly, you know, I think it contributed heavily to the signing of Alistair Johnson, the Canadian player, because Ange Postecoglou has, we can see by his format, he wants 2 first-team players for every slot. He's now got 2. He's now got 3 for the right fullback slot, because Ralston's a Scottish internationalist, Alistair Johnston is a Canadian internationalist, and he's got a Croatian internationalist, so you would think that one of that 3 would go. So this looks like a bit of an anticipation by Celtic, and that Juranovic, you know, will certainly be up for auction in the January window.
Yeah, they're talking about 10 million, not a bad return if they do get that for a £2 million outlay.
Well, as you said, he's an international football player, and he's playing in a top team. He is at the top tournament in the world, and he's doing okay. No, not great, but he's doing okay. But certainly £10 million is not big money in this day and age. You know,
I think they're actually willing for more, Peter.
So?
I think they will. And because see now, you look at it now, we were talking about this the other day there. If Liverpool or Manchester United, we're not suggesting that those are the clubs that are in for Juranovic, but if top end English Premiership club or Premier League clubs spend 10 million on a player, you go, they're just taking a punt.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a player for the first team. I mean, I'm not going to go into this kind of money bingo that you see everything's but I think you could get a bit more than that for him.
Well, I phoned Charlie Adam this morning to give us an assessment of it, and Charlie reckons he could go for 150 grand. You know, I made that up to you, but that was me taking you back to last season.
I'm sure Peter Lawwell will be sitting going 10 million, really?
Well, it's not Peter Lawwell now who decides upon it.
Something to do with it.
Executive. Anyway, listen, he's attracted attention. Where he ends up, only time will tell. But it looks as if he's one of there's no smoke without fire, and it's gathering pace on the clubs that are lining up to talk to him. Could Giakoumakis be on his way as well? Are there other surprises heading out the door that just are not going to see first team football at Celtic? Give us your thoughts on it. One man that's eagerly anticipated coming back into the side is Callum McGregor.
Yep, that is one. He's one of sort of untold stories of the last few weeks when Celtic went in that run and Rangers started dropping points. Was the absence of McGregor. I happen to think he's the best player in Scotland, certainly the best player in the Celtic team. And I think the way that Celtic coped without him was superb. And that goes down to Matt O'Reilly, you know, because he slotted into that position. O'Reilly was bought for another position totally. And O'Reilly slotted into that position perfectly. And I know he's another one who's attracting, shall we say, admiring glances from down south as well. And if two players were to leave shortly, I would that would be my options. O'Reilly and Juranovic would be the guys that people are looking at the moment.
Yeah, I still think it's too early for O'Reilly to whip himself back down south.
I think it is as well, but if he's getting offered big money and Celtic get a big fee for him...
money talks.
That's the way it works.
Absolutely, but I think Celtic fans will certainly welcome Callum McGregor back in. I think, you know, for the last couple of seasons, for me, he's been the best midfielder in Scotland by a country mile. Now, when you look across the city, obviously Rangers fans wanting to see who's going to come in for them. One guy that's definitely, I don't know where this story, I don't even know how this story gathered pace.
I think it was somebody who was sat on that couch a couple of weeks ago.
Go on.
One of our Tam McManus's statements.
What, Ryan Porteous for Rangers?
Yeah, he thought he said he could play for both of the old firm.
No, that's not what he said. He said there's not a catch chance in hell of Ryan Porteous joining Rangers.
Well,
but he might have said he could easily have played for both. But
yes, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, but he didn't say he was going to sign for him. I mean, it's just a nonsense story. I mean, honestly, half the Rangers fans wanted to absolutely kill him last season. You know, so I don't know what the other half are thinking on it, but I think the
Porteous situation is interesting though, with running down a contract.
He'll go down south.
Yeah, I think he will, and he's running down the contract, and people will say, oh, he's too impetuous, he's this, he's that, the next thing. Yeah, but he's young, and people slaughtered Scott McKenna. McKenna's playing in the Premier League now, you know, with Nottingham Forest, and so there is a pathway there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's great when you have a situation where, I mean, all the cards are stacked heavily in his favour.
Yeah, and he's came out right at the start and said, look, I've done my bit here, you know, I want to test myself in a bigger league. And but obviously Hibs can't accept that. They've got to keep telling the support that we're trying to get him on a deal, we're trying to get him on a contract, blah, blah, blah. But the boys obviously said to the people in charge at Hibs, I want to go down south.
Yeah.
And that's where he'll end up. Who he'll end up with will be interesting.
Yeah, I think probably top end championship. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah. I think that's probably the level that he's got to go and try and prove himself. And the other thing about it with Ryan Porteous and a number of players who eventually make the move down there, you mentioned Scott McKenna, is they come out of this, I don't know, it's like a hot pot of everybody's opinion up here on players. They get out of it and then they get a chance to maybe not get as much scrutiny, and they play at a level which is not as hectic and try and make a name for themselves, you know. And I think he needs to be away from here because more often than not he was getting himself involved in being Ryan Porteous, the guy who was picking up yellow cards willy-nilly, fighting with everybody.
Yeah, and I think there was also there was an element of him being in the spotlight for reasons that he shouldn't have been in the spotlight, for controversies which I thought were daft, etc. But other times, when you watch him, you forget how young he is. I mean, sometimes you watch him and go, God, that positioning wasn't perfect. And he likes to pass out for the back, and sometimes he's pass out for the back, you go, oh, that wasn't perfect. Then you see him, you know, that his debut for Scotland, he was outstanding.
Well, he passes it out from the back with pace, you know, and if you're a half-decent footballer, you can take it in, you'll thank him for it.
And I think, I certainly think he's got loads of potential. I've interviewed him, and I like to cut his jib as well, because he's determined to make the most of himself, and he's determined to progress in his career wherever it's going. He talks very well about that and level-headedly about that. So Championship's a great place, Peter, because you're playing really good quality there, and if you're playing well there, you're really in the eye of Premier League clubs as well.
Yeah.
People forget. I mean, that was where Andy Robertson jumped to Liverpool from, was Hull City. I know Hull City are a yo-yo team, but it can get you a darn decent move for the Championship.
Yeah, one man that's obviously, I think two people are attracting attention and wondering whether they're going to be at Rangers next season or indeed after January is Alfredo Morelos and Ryan Kent. There's a suggestion that Kent might be one of those targets for Everton. You know, bookies' odds are being slashed as we speak on it, but it's quite clear that I think Rangers will be looking and saying, right, if you're not going to tie yourself down, we're going to cash in January on you, even though it's not the fee that we would want.
Yeah, I think they've got to get something. You know, we discussed on the show the other day, you know, what the total fee away back a year ago would be for the two of them, you know, and I think we had Kent up about 10 and Morelos about 15 or something like that. And
yeah, Charlie had him at 30.
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's £25 million. I mean, that's a lot of money that you're going to throw down the drain just because somebody hadn't got them on a contract. But they're running down the contract now, and when that happens, you know, certain elements of the fans seem to think you're ripping the club off, you know, and that could go against them as well. So I think if they went to the manager and said, look, we don't want to be here, the sooner they leave, the better.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people disenchanted with Alfredo Morelos and, you know, the way he kept himself, the shape, his commitment to Rangers at times was questionable at times when they really needed him. Kent, I don't know how much money they're going to get for him. If they can get some kind of half-decent fee, then, you know, good luck to Rangers on this one. My problem with him was I didn't think he killed teams, you know, with the talent that he had. Maybe he didn't have the right manager around to get the best out of him, but I did not see last season, Hugh, a return from that boy to suggest he was absolutely top drawer.
I agree with you. I think his performance is the best sporadic, Peter. You know, I think if you were a Rangers fan and you had to look at every game he's played of late this season, I don't think you would pick out an outstanding game this season.
Yeah.
Maybe go back to a couple of performances in Europe last year where he was decent.
He's about maybe less than a yard away from being a Rangers legend. I mean, that's how crazy football is. If he gets on the end of that chance and scores and Rangers win the Europa League,
right.
He is doing dinners at Rangers for the next 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, his performances as well in Europe, you know, last year were excellent as well, generally. I think the lad's lost his way, Peter, and I think the lad's lost confidence.
Yep.
I see him quite a lot of times. I haven't seen Rangers much in live this season. I've seen him on television. But any time I've watched Rangers, he seems to check out. You know, when you see a player getting the ball and he's one-on-one, you're screaming at him, take him on. And he's checking out, and that always seems to me sort of a lack of confidence. People would say Gio Van Bronckhorst was very concerned about ball retention as well, wanted to play the ball back if you can get. But Kent was always a good player, and at his best when he was heading forward, and he was heading forward at pace, and he was committing people and worrying people then. And I think he's lost a bit of that. I think it'll come back. I don't think he's lost irrevocably. I just mean he's lost a bit of that this season.
Yeah, I think that's a horrible thing, that he's got something. He's got something that gets you off your seat on his game. You know, he's got a trick that other people haven't got, you know, and it's not consistent enough. But he's definitely got something, so maybe it is you go to another club and then we see the true Kent.
Yeah, another man who's been hogging the headlines is Keanu Bacchus. Again, I think Keanu's good. For a young boy, I think he's got a sensible head on his shoulders. Obviously, everybody's talking about whether he's going to get a big move. Could he move to a Celtic or a Rangers? Could he go elsewhere? And I think he's keen to just stay where he is at the moment and then assess things. Maybe even the summer.
Yeah, that's it. Definitely just career aspirations. As it's nothing to do with the club or anything the club have done. I've loved it, every minute, and I'm still here now. So let's just take it month by month and see, and game by game, and that's what I was doing before. So probably should keep doing that, and not worry too much about the future, but definitely perform my best for St Mirren first, and then everything came off the back of that at the start. So hopefully continues now.
Yeah, I wish the boy well, because the only problem you have. Here's the problem I have sometimes with the World Cup. It can distort the overall assessment of a player, and the true qualities of him. Because if you have a rich vein of form, one name that springs to mind is Oleg Salenko. You can play in a good 2 or 3 games, and people just. It's great for the player if you get the big move, but then you have to live up to it.
Yeah, but it's so. It's the World Cup, so the world's watching it. So you're so visible and you're so talked about. And funnily enough, the more you see of it, which you thoroughly enjoy, it's not the biggest in terms of elite in class. It's not on the scale of, say, the Champions League, where it's real elite players. You're getting a mixture of players, Peter. And there's some players that are there's a lot of players that are going to make jumps because of it.
Yeah. And again, I'll speak to you, Robbie, because Hugh's dying, and he needs a wee bit of your Lemsip. That's Lemsip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I don't think he was as consistently picked by Stephen Robinson. I think he's got something about him, the boy. I think once he gets regularly into that St Mirren side, which is well within his capabilities.
Yeah, and as I said, playing against better players and being at a World Cup, he'll come back a better player. There's no doubt about that. But for being in that team and being there and who he was up against and who he played, he's put his name on people's list.
Yeah.
Anybody who's watching it, we said, teams like Celtic will identify players like the boy for Canada, and people looking at him will go, he's not going to cost us a lot of money.
Yeah.
He's playing at the World Cup. He's played against. So he's put his name out there. If clubs want, it's nice that he's saying he doesn't want to move. But if other teams come in for him, I'm sure St Mirren will take the money.
Yeah. And the other, his teammate is hot property, Harry Souttar.
Absolutely. He had a tremendous World Cup. The World Cup was knitted for him in many ways. The way they defended, it suits a big stopper style. But he had a World Cup for the ages. Things couldn't have gone any better for him. But he's a decent player. He's playing at a decent level in England. There's no surprise that he should be okay. Again, you're not talking about in the World Cup. Sometimes you're talking about being against Mbappe and Kane. And Ronaldo if he gets picked, and Messi, etc., etc. But sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're playing against, forward lines that are not Champions League class. There's a huge disparity of. I watched Canada, Peter, and I thought they were terrific, but they didn't have a front line.
Yeah.
I watched America, and I thought they were terrific, but Pulisic was decent up front, but they didn't have a centre forward. There can be great range of abilities within the one side that you don't get in the knockout stages of the Champions League, for example. Because if you're a knockout team in the Champions League, 1 to 11, you're excellent. You're top notch.
Yeah.
The other team might be better than you. You might be a Borussia Dortmund and you're playing against an Atletico Madrid and they're just better than you. But 1 to 11, you're excellent. That's not the case in international football. 1 to 11, there can be a couple of mediocres. Not when you get to Brazil, France's, etc. But it can be. But Souttar, Suter was terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. 25 million they're talking about.
Are they, aye?
For him from Stoke City. That's the transfer fee they're putting on him. So whether they get it or not, who knows? One man I'm looking forward to seeing coming back, Ruffy, is Aiden McGeady. I know he's played in a bounce game for Hibs, and I think a lot of people are now hoping that his injury problems are behind him. I know it happens in this feed because there are people who just don't like Aiden McGeady for obvious reasons, which, you know, I think poison this country. But as a player, even at the twilight of his career, I think he's got something to offer, injury-free.
Yeah, they need him desperately now, with Boyle being out for so long. You know, I know they're a different kind of player, but certainly if Nisbet's coming back, he's the one that's going to supply the goods for anybody up front. You know, if he gets in to that last third, you know, he'll put quality balls in the box, and you would think any decent strikers would get their fair share of goals off him. So I think they've got to get him on the park as soon as possible.
I think there's a game tonight, Peter. They're playing FC Edinburgh tonight.
Yeah, well, he played in the Wraith Rovers game.
And I think he'll go again. I'm interested in Aiden McGeady where he plays him, because the natural assumption, of course, is to play him wide.
Where would you play him? 10?
I'd play him 10. I think he's got, especially if you've got a goal scorer like Nisbet, and there's a couple of number 9s at Hibs. I think Aiden McGeady's got the craft, the technique and the intelligence to do considerable damage in the final third for a number 10 position. You know, he drifted inside a lot with Sunderland as well. So yeah, I'd be interested to see how he is used.
Yeah, I do think they need to go out and buy someone to replace. I mean, I say replace, to try and compensate for the loss of Boyle.
Yeah, Boyle's a huge loss in so many aspects. But I think the first one you lose is his pace. He's so good in the counter, and I don't know if Hibs have got that pace in the counter to substitute for him.
I'm going to read out some of the messages. It's funny at times with people who, Gregor says he doesn't care what religion McGeady is. He's mince. That's his problem. Way past it. And listen, everybody's got their opinion. Gallant says McGeady is done. A lot of people not really. Brian says I'd play McGeady at number 10 on the Xbox. But the point here, Ruffy, and you know, there are some people who don't like him because of the whole Irish thing. Yeah. So let's take that one right out. The other people just don't like him because of McGeady's personality, which, you know, and of course the fact that he's a good player. Some people don't like him because he played for Celtic, and of course Aiden himself he's not shy in coming forward with an opinion. But the key issue here is the reason why he can still do a job is because, I'm not going to mince it, you know, out with Celtic and Rangers, there's a lot of mediocre players in our division. That's why he could still come back and do a job. We can't elevate it and say there's a lot of great players in it, because you only have to look at the European performances of clubs. We're not great. No. The standard's not good, Ruffy.
No, I still think he's a quality player. I think anybody who's seen him playing, take everything out of the equation, and ability-wise, he's a joy to watch in full flow, you know, and certainly in a Hibs team, I think he should do well. I think people have to take his age out of the equation. I think he'd be a relatively fit guy who's looked after himself, and it's up to him to prove everybody that's trying to have a wee go at him, you know, and I'm sure he will.
I'm sure he will. He's a top-notch player. I mean, the people can say he's done and all that. You just have a look at his career, where he's played. You know, he's played in the English Premier League. He's played in the Russian League. He was player of the season over there. You know, he's played at Celtic under, you know, as a teenager under Martin O'Neill, etc., etc. It's just daft to say he's not a good player. Yeah. I mean, and I think...
Hey, we allow daft comments on here.
Well, sometimes I make them myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm majoring in it.
No, I'm an expert.
10 years with him, we've heard a few, haven't we?
It was quite interesting, though, the guy came around and says, I don't care what religion Aiden McGeady is. Nobody mentioned religion in this programme.
Yeah, I did actually allude to the fact that there are people who hate him for a certain poison in this country.
But you never said anything about religion.
Yeah, well, he's jumped on it. But point of the matter is, listen, he's come back from an injury. Can he get any kind of form for Hibs? I think the Hibs fans will be desperate to see him do something. If he can't, hey, he won't be the first or the last player who's in the twilight of his career to come to Scotland and not perform. If he gives them half a season of what Hibs need right now, then I think they'll be absolutely delighted. Thank you very much to lots of people who've commented on McGeady and other points as well. That's the nature of football. We love it. We love your opinion, as long as you're not abusive on the feed, because more often than not, we try to the best of our ability to monitor our feed on our live show and try and keep it as decent as possible. And we do ban people from time to time, but it's very, very difficult sometimes to actually completely and utterly eradicate some of the people who make our lives a little sadder. Anyway, one person who's going to cheer you up is Kerry Pollock, because she has the details of a chance to win some great retro shirts. We'll get 6 vouchers on offer for this competition.
PLZ Soccer has teamed up with our friends at Grieve Sports and Copa to offer you the fabulous chance to win one of these World Cup retro shirts if you enter our World Cup hat-trick competition. All you have to do is tell us who you think will win the World Cup, finish top goal scorer, and who will be declared player of the tournament. The person who gets all 3 correct will go into a draw to win one of 6 vouchers to choose their very own retro World Cup shirt from the Grieve Sports website. And if you don't get all 3 correct, then don't worry. You can still subscribe to our YouTube channel for a chance to win. To enter, simply submit your answers in the feed below, and if you want to double your chances of winning, then make sure you subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. The winner will be announced on the day of the World Cup final. Good luck.
Yeah, that's a good competition. We've been in there, and certainly some of the retro shirts are absolutely magnificent. Not a bad prize, Hugh.
Absolutely brilliant prize.
Yeah.
Just noticing these 2 shirts behind you, Peter. What belters comes out of mind.
I must admit, if I could actually orchestrate it, Ruffy, and for yourself, Hugh, it would be great if all 3 of us could go to Boca Juniors against River Plate, wouldn't it?
La Bombonera with a Maradona shirt on and my tint helmet.
And maybe just not go with a shirt on.
Go with one of these armour, the Kevlar vest rather than a shirt.
It's amazing sometimes, because you're far travelled. I've been to numerous areas right across the world watching football, and sometimes we can be so insular in our thinking that we have the best derbies. We don't have the best derby now, because only, both of them are so petty they only allow a small amount of fans in. But elsewhere, where people are a wee bit more normal, you get some really, really good derbies.
Aye, and you get some really mad scenes. I always remember, the people always say, only in Scotland would this happen, would you get this? And I say, well, go to Belgrade and watch Red Star. Try the Red Star. Look at La Bombonera with the River Plate, where they just cannot allow anybody, a River Plate fan, within 20 miles of the stadium, never mind it, in the stadium.
In the 90s, Ruffy, the Milan derby was special as well.
It wasn't.
My memory of absolutely bedlam, it was the Turkish one with Graham Souness.
Planting the flag.
That was just incredible what was going on in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. A brave man to plant the flag there. Although I have to say, probably from an outsider's point of view, if you're an outsider and not really embedded in Turkish history, he's the one man that could have got away with it. I'm not quite sure he would have done it in an Old Firm game, though.
Oh, no. Goodness gracious.
He wouldn't be a pundit right now.
And the pundits in the World Cup's been strange as well, hasn't it? I would be getting annoyed at people dancing or not dancing. I find it all kind of wearisome. I just love the whole kind of pageant of Brazil at a World Cup, what they're doing.
I do like Roy Keane as a pundit, but sometimes I just think, you have good statements and bad statements, things that you have an opinion. If it's his opinion, absolutely fair play to him. I like seeing people celebrate.
So do I.
I like people showboating as well, but it's a dangerous game to showboat.
Aye, you take your chances, but I like it.
So do I.
I thought it was good on the telly when England scored and they're up, the Neville and Thingmere up, battering the window, and he's just
absolutely, because he's not, well, to be fair, he's not going to celebrate England. And it's interesting that it'll be interesting. I'll tell you what will be interesting, and don't mention where we're going, obviously,
Right.
but because you're prone to that, Ruffy. But we're going out for a Christmas party, the whole staff, everybody. It'll be interesting to see on the big screen where we're going to watch England-France, the reaction here for England against France. I'm not talking about us, just talking about the assembled crew when it's on the big screen.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, you're hazarding a guess, aren't you? I mean, I would hazard a guess that there won't be that many people supporting England, and it's just a rivalry thing. It's nothing to do with, us and them, and a sort of a political view.
I think us and them will come into it, Ruffy.
Yeah, no, but not in a football sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fortunate enough to play in 7 Scotland-England games, so I know what the banter's like. I know the rivalry. I know, how much they look down on us and think we're just a wee country and a wee team. So, I mean, from that point of view,
Did anybody ever say anything in the tunnel that riled you?
No, the only time it riled me was Bob Wilson. Before my first Scotland-England game, the year before that, I think Stuart Kennedy had got beat 5-1, and there was another game, obviously the Frank Haffey one, everybody talks about.
There's a 5-1 at Hampden as well,
and I went out, I got asked to go out and do an interview an hour and a half before the game on the park, and I went out, and Bob Wilson was there, and his first question to me was, well, do you think this will be another goalkeeping nightmare today?
That's from a Scottish goalkeeper.
You're gilding the lily there. You're not.
Scottish internationalist.
I know that, but I think Bob was born in England, wasn't he?
No.
I'd ask him about his one cap.
Did you? You're a bad man, Ruffy. Anyway, listen. As far as the World Cup is concerned, there is one guy in America that is actually just probably praying that France are going to pop up with the World Cup in their hands, because if France do win the World Cup, there's one punter in America who's got a 7-fold accumulator, which at this moment 6 are already in the bag. He put on $26 bet. He bet, first of all, the NCAA basketball champions would be Kansas. He then went to the NBA, Golden State Warriors. He tipped Colorado Avalanche in the Stanley Cup, the ice hockey. He had AC Milan as Serie A champions, Los Angeles for their win, Man City as champions, and the last bit of his bet on that $26 is France. And for $26, if France win, and they've offered him a cash out even at this point, by the way, is $557,770.
Yeah. Well, if France beat England, he then has terrific options, because then he can just back the 3 other teams in the semi-finals at decent odds. Put 20 grand each on Brazil, Portugal and who else might get to the semis, and then he still cleans up. But as an ex-betting man, I'd be looking at the cash out as well. I think France are very strong in that as well.
What do you think is a good cash out figure?
I wonder what they'd offer him. I think a good cash out figure for me would be 100 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Would you cash out at 100 grand?
I don't gamble on that. I don't do cash outs. I think it's a test of nerve, isn't it? It's a test.
Here's a test of nerve. You put $26 on, Ruffy.
Right.
You're waiting on France. I'm saying to you right now, I'm the bookie, right? I'm saying to you,
cool.
okay, Ruffy, you've got $26. You're waiting on France. The big game's against England coming up. I'm going to give you $90,000 to check out now.
Well, now that Hugh's told me how to spread bet, I'd take the 90,000 to his spread bet and see if I could make more.
Right, okay then. So it's a long way of saying I'd take the money. So whether he gets it or not, only time will tell. Everybody's talking about it. England against France. Who's going to win in your mind? I think there's a nice little story come out that Raheem Sterling will go back with the England squad tomorrow, which I think is great in totally dismal circumstances for the boy.
Absolutely. I don't think he plays now. I don't think he gets in the team now.
No, absolutely not.
I think.
What a guy to bring on.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with his pace impact player. But I think he's got to start with Saka and Foden. Did absolutely nothing wrong the other night there. The midfield is looking set. He's not going to do away with Henderson or Bellingham or Rice in that 3. Kane's nailed on. So I think he comes back. Sterling is sitting the bench, but to come off the bench as well, because that's been one of the great things about the World Cup. You know, one of the great traits of the World Cup is the way managers are using subs. You know, they're using subs for, and they're using all their subs. Even down to the state of the Brazilian guy who used his third choice goalkeeper.
Yeah, absolutely. To give him, I thought that was a lovely touch, though. Did you not?
That means every one of the 26 players he's taken to the World Cup are playing.
And he's got a $5 million move off the back of it. That was a trait from Brazil.
I'd have thought of that in Seville. Come on, give somebody else a shot. Get another goalkeeper on.
Even 2 goalkeepers wouldn't have stopped Adair's chip. But right now, everybody's talking about the key players for England, the key players for France. Kyle Walker has got a 90 minutes that he's going to be absolutely on the top of his game if he's going to stop Mbappe. Everybody's talking about it, including, of course, the England defender.
Yeah, you have to use a little bit of nous. You can't be a speedboat without no driver. You need to obviously use your brain when needed. And you know, I can't get as tight to him as I probably will do on some other players. That's just, you know, the nature of the game. I remember playing against Theo Walcott once, and I've tried to get so close to him, and all of a sudden he just spins in behind you, and you kind of think, well, that's your lesson taught. And you need to make the mistakes that you make are not costly mistakes.
I think he makes a good point on the basis, Ruffy, that, you know, never mind his battle with Mbappe and how he's going to try and have to curtail the Frenchman with his speed and obviously his finishing ability. But you look at the other players, I mean, you can't just think about Harry Kane. You look at the other players in France. Griezmann is certainly a problem, and Dembele as well.
Well, Griezmann's the one who's sort of flirting behind Giroud and him, and he's the one with all the movement across them. So somebody will have to decide who's going to pick him up when he causes the damage. But unfortunately for Walker there, he loves getting up and down the park. If he goes up that park, you know, and there's a massive gap there and Mbappe's there, he won't catch him because he'll be too far away from him. So it's going to limit his strength that Mbappe's on his side of the park.
Yeah, David Gemmell says France 2, England 1 after extra time. Oof, that would be nail-biting. Bartholomew doesn't see it quite that way. He reckons it's France 7, England 1. And of course, I think Bartholomew's almost certainly at his Christmas party right now, and he's fired into the mulled wine. But
I think it's a fascinating game. I think the Kyle Walker thing is that, you know, if you had to pick a player to go up against Mbappe, Kyle Walker would be one of the ones you would pick because he's strong and he's quick. Is he strong enough or quick enough? We'll find out on Saturday. The thing I've watched, I hate to keep going on about being in Qatar, but one of the things that watching it with my son and Ali and his best mate Andy, well, we kind of watched games in silence because we were overcome with the whole thing. And then afterwards, we went out, we had a discussion on the way back to the metro or the bus or whatever. And watching Mbappe, we just said, I've never seen a player. The word we all used was explosive as him. It was like almost cartoonish, Peter.
Yeah.
It was like, you see, watching him live, you'd see him coming up against the guy. You could see the other guy was struggling with the pace at that moment. And he'd just go again.
Well, I'll give you a player who was the nearest to that, if I think better than Mbappe. Ronaldo, the Brazilian. When before he got the injuries.
But going at full pelt,
bang.
And then you go, boom, and he goes again.
Yeah.
There was one bit in the game, we saw the France-Denmark game, where he squared up a guy and he went, and the full-back matched him, and you went, oh God, this full-back's good. But it's almost like being sucked in because he just went again, and the full-back was late. I mean, an international full-back just left for dead. I mean, Mbappe was sensational that night. He dragged France over the line that night. Griezmann was excellent as well. See the amount of work Griezmann put in. I was really impressed with that. Giroud's old-fashioned centre forward. Rabiot's looking more like the midfield player that we knew and loved before he went to Juventus. Dembele could be anything. When he was at Dortmund, I thought he was the next one to be a worldie. He was the one that was going to take the mantle. That hasn't worked out for him. But he's as good as he gets up. They're pretty strong at the back as well.
Yeah.
So they're a good mob.
Yeah.
They're a good mob. I think they might be the second best team in the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely, and I presume you mean Brazil. Yeah,
Aye.
yeah. I mean, listen. I'm going to get you to call it in a minute, but I was reading your paper today, the Daily Mail. With regards to Martin Samuel is a very good writer. And they were talking about Bellingham or Gascoigne, and Bellingham because of his maturity. Am I being an old fuddy-duddy? I think Gaza was. I think Bellingham has got the potential to be world class.
I think Bellingham.
Gaza.
I think Bellingham in the next 10 years will get over 100 caps for England.
Yes.
He'll be the guy that England build a team about. If Liverpool are lucky enough to get him, he'll be the guy that reignites Liverpool. That's how good he is. And he'll captain England for a long, long time. That's how good Bellingham is. But people forget what Gascoigne was. And see, like, so if I've been watching English football pretty intently since the 60s, and you're talking about midfield players, I think the only one that was challenging, and I include people like Brian Robson, I think the only one challenged Gascoigne is the greatest English midfield player is Bobby Charlton. That's how good I think Gascoigne is.
Yeah, I must admit, I was reading it this morning with great interest. Did you see the article?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I would still pick Gaza.
Well, shut my eyes and think of Gaza. I think I'm playing against Scotland in the Euros. In that era, that year, or that 2 or 3 years, he was somebody that you don't see now. You don't see anybody going by 3 or 4 players. You saw it with Maradona and you see it with Messi and all, but Gascoigne did it regularly.
Gascoigne just go win a game.
For fun, you know. And then obviously he came to Rangers at the twilight of his career, but he was still doing it.
Yeah.
He was still waltzing by people.
The famous performance against Aberdeen, where he just won the game. He just decided, we're not losing today, and I'm going to be the player. And by the way, I'm taking the hand away from Bellingham. I love Bellingham because I've watched him over the years.
Yeah, you're a
Dortmund.
big fan.
I love Bellingham. I've watched him over the years at Dortmund, and that was another thing we were saying. I said, imagine at Dortmund if we still had Haaland and Bellingham and Sancho. What a team we would have, But we don't. But Bellingham will go in the summer. I'm very interested to see where he goes, Peter.
Yeah, James Skeen makes a good point. He's different player to Gaza. Yeah, he probably is, James. But we were just talking about the comparison from the article this morning that I read. I think he's a different player, and
it's a different game as well.
It is a different game, but there's always a place. I think, no matter what generation, a Paul Gascoigne survives in them all.
Yeah, I think so. See, if you've got a player that can, they all talk, the big expression now is break the lines, but see if you've got a player that can take the ball and just to be crude, do something. A player that can just do something, they can hit the ball in the net for 30 yards, where they can dribble round or where they can put the pass in. And Gascoigne could do all, Peter. He could sprint past players, he could dribble past players, and then if he was tired, he could just whack the ball into the net for 30 yards.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, don't forget, if you are putting something on our feed, if you use any profanities, then we will ban you. I just have to mention that because the one thing about the programme, over the 10 years roughly, we've got 99% of the people who follow us are thoroughly decent people who love their football, like a noise up every now and then, but some people come on and use bad language.
Yeah, there's a couple of times we did road shows. And I have to say the people who came to see us were pretty decent people and really football fanatics, and they were great nights. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, from England against France, who wins?
France.
Right, okay, still sticking with the France. You can give us your opinion on that. Couple of quick points. Portugal say that Ronaldo didn't threaten to leave the camp. I think sometimes it just turns into a circus of misinformation. A Twitter post of him not smiling when Portugal have scored. It's very deceiving. If you don't know how to treat social media and the certain people, scurrilous people in the press as well as fans, if you don't know how to look at it and try and think objectively, you would have Ronaldo as just causing absolute mayhem in that crew, and I don't think it's the case.
I don't think so either, and I think that there's a whole revisionism going on about Ronaldo, where they talk about, we didn't need him to win the other night. Of course they did. Great, and the young kid that came in, terrific performance and a terrific result. But to think that Portugal got to that stage of anything, of any World Cup, and the other one is we won the Euros without Ronaldo because he was injured early on. Do you think Portugal would have got to the final without Ronaldo? Do you think Ronaldo didn't have an influence on the players that were playing that day?
He had a major influence in some of the games.
Of course he did. I mean, the guys at the one of the greatest players. We're not going into the argument, but he's one of the greatest players of all time, without a question. I think he's lost his way a wee bit lately because he's getting older and he's got big decisions to be made and his head's been distracted with things and he's been moved. But I think he'll settle down now because they've got a winnable game, Peter. I think it'll be a tough game, but they've got a winnable game and that puts them into the last 4 of the World Cup.
Yeah. Well, I think he's one of the all-time greats. I don't listen, there's some things that I don't like that he was doing, but over the piece, I think when he hangs up his boots, Ruffy, I think people will start, looking back on his record, some of the records that he holds, that he's broken, and they will literally look back and say he has been at top 5 for me easily.
Yeah, I think when you start to talk about Ronaldo, you've got to put everything in the back burner. Just think about him on the park, the memories and the things that he's done on the park, things he's done that no other players could do. He's that kind of. And you're right. He's up there in our era. This era, he is in the top 2 anyway. Yeah,
just before we go, Hugh, here's the quarter-final ties. Have a look. Give me your prediction on all 4 of them.
Right, I'm going to take Brazil to beat Croatia. Tough, but Brazil will break them down. A sneaking feeling for the Netherlands to beat Argentina. I think Portugal squeak through against Morocco, and I think France will beat England.
Okay, Ruffy, I've got Brazil, Argentina, Portugal and France.
Oh, you got the right-hand side.
That whole right-hand side.
And me. I'm going to go for the 4 as well.
Yeah, it's all about opinions. Okay, the answer to our quiz question. And apologies to everybody because Ruffy's determined to get through this cold and still come into work and make
pass
sure
it on to
we
me.
all get it as well. Which year did Dennis Bergkamp score his wonder goal to knock Argentina out of the World Cup? It was 1998, and it was a fabulous piece of skill from him as well. And I think we're actually looking at that was possibly going into extra time.
Yeah, it was
until that passed,
and then they killed it. Bergkamp's greatest goal DVD would be a nice one to watch, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if you think of players who scored great goals, Ruffy.
Just when you said that there with Bergkamp, the one that sprang to me was when he was at Arsenal, when the centre half was right behind him, and he flicked it. He flicked it round the boy and then just went and volleyed it. It was incredible.
He scored a remarkable hat-trick against Leicester as well, just 3 different goals.
The third one when he...
Third one's bash.
It was coming over his head as well. I mean, it was absolutely magnificent.
The stories about him at Arsenal as well was like in training as well, that the way he would react to everybody, he just took the whole level up. Because every pass to him had to be precise. There wasn't any fun at training. Funny people. No, just stop that drill. I want that pass better.
Yeah, and who can argue with him? I think if you're talking about the top type of video, if you were going into somewhere, and I did this myself, Hugh, I went into one of the charity shops and found a Matt Le Tissier video for £5, and it was well worth it because there was not a mediocre goal on it.
He never scored a bad goal. He never scored a bad goal. Even his penalties were crackers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was another player we were talked about earlier on in the eras where one guy could keep a team up. Remember, he used to come by at the end of the season and Southampton was struggling. You'd scored 2 worldies against Newcastle and 2 away from home. What a player he was.
Matt Le Tissier, great DVD. Bergkamp, another one. Can you think of anybody else, Ruffy? Their collection of DVD.
Pele's one for me is just magnificent.
Yeah,
right to the film, his early age, right on to
absolutely
everything.
Thierry Henry scored some goals as well.
And
Thierry Henry,
the Brazilian.
Yeah, don't even start.
There you are. So, apart from anything else, thank you very much to each and every one of you for your comments. You'll get opinion on here, some you like, some you don't, but we value your support for us over the 10 years. Coming up before the end of the year, we'll be bringing you the best of the show, some of the special guests we've had on, and some of the fun we've had. Hopefully you'll enjoy that. And because it's 10 years, Ruffy, we're going to put out a wee special programme because you, Hugh and I, have
10
been there
years.
for the 10 years, which has been incredible. Some people have
Testimonial.
yes, some people have absolutely thought with a $26 bet that we wouldn't last the 10 years, but we've confounded them, and we'll put out some of the best bits over the 10 years as well in the various places where we've reinvented ourselves. Off is that fair?
That backdrop in the first one when the
if we did crack a joke, we had a backdrop, Hugh, which will never be forgotten.
I hope we've got footage of the director of communications for Aston Villa
singing the song.
Singing the Garden Festival song.
That'll be on us. I actually saw a photograph of the PR communications from Aston Villa sunning it in Dubai.
Is that where it is?
So that's where he is. So he's enjoying himself. You can leave PLZ and go on to better things, as a few have proved. Anyway, thanks to Hugh, thanks to Ruffy, and from myself, Peter Martin, thanks to you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We'll be back tomorrow.